How's it going, critter people? I hope you all are doing well. We are looking at a video by Pawfessor Gage, Dr. Pawfessor, Goxley, Geo is a Mio, Mr. Saunderson, Friendly Neighborhood Dog Dude, Sharky Shark Wahlberg, Goxley, did I say that already? Anyway, Gage O'Brien is the name of this creator. I downloaded this video from a very long time ago before he privated all of his dog training videos. He's going to be working with a dog named Pixie. This is Pixie. The name of his title is Dr. Pawfessor fails to train a dog and almost gives up. But then he doesn't. So I'm just going to be going over, having worked with dogs that are much more independent-minded. They're more focused on their own thing, their own reinforcers in the world and the environment. I'm just going to be giving my opinion and point of view, using all footage here under Fair Use Act for education, criticism, again, giving my point of view. Pretty much same as always. For the people who do not like it, that I pause and I talk a lot, or I pause every few seconds. Except for this, we cannot do it in this case, but any other case, you are welcome. And I suggest that you go watch the original video. Again, not in this case because this is downloaded, but in any other future video, look at the title that is at the top of the screen. I always say the title of it. You can go search that for yourself, watch the whole video through as many times as you'd like, as fast as you'd like, and then you can come back and listen to whatever commentary I happen to give on that particular video. If apparently my talking and pausing every few seconds is too annoying for you, or just not worth your time because some people say that their own time is valuable, that's fine. You can actually save me time by just clicking off, or save yourself time too by not commenting that, just to tell me that I talk too much or that I pause too much, because I'm not going to care. But in all honesty, okay, I pause and go through these thought processes and this, down these rabbit holes because I'm trying to get messages out there to help people learn. So if you're not here to learn, if you just want to watch the video, then go watch it on your own time, ×2 speed, or you can listen to me at ×2 speed. That's fine. Or just don't watch it all. I will try to let videos play a little bit more, give you a little bit more to look at, before I make some points or try to play it. If I play it at the same time as I'm talking, it's kind of hard to hear what the other person is saying. So that's why I do what I do. And, there's a method to my madness. So I've been talking enough. Let's get started.
And Walker. So that's all you guys get to say. I'm actually going to set y'all up right here to show you how far we can get and then walk back.
Okay, so he has a long line. Okay, so he's going to say that this entire video is him working way too fast, okay? With the long line, I like to have it reeled in. A lot of time, he doesn't use leashes a lot, or with his own dog. So he has looks like a 30-foot long line. We can play it for now. I like to have it untangled. Right now, I would immediately be working on, very light pressure and release. He says by the end of this video, she'll be on a harness. Terrific. He's just trying to get her engagement to stop her from pulling. I would like to give her a little bit more leash. That's why I like, I love working with a long line. And I would have this on the ground untangled, and I can let it slide through my hand very easily. I would try to, fix her little foot there so it's not, not pulling. I want to teach the dog to be able to give to pressure very easily and very lightly. So I probably at this point wouldn't necessarily be working with the food like this. I might. It just depends on the dog. I mean, I think that, I would be working on, she gives into the slightest bit of pressure, and I'll put a link in the video description, about what I mean about giving into pressure lightly. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing here. And don't get me wrong, I'm not an ass kisser of his, in fact, I have some very personal issues with him, but those are not going to be taken, into account in this video. I'm simply just going to be talking, just matter of fact, from what I see. So right here, that's great. This is really good for if you're just, everyday training. Like I tell people a lot, if these folks could take their dog out every day and they're elderly, I don't know how often they take her out. I believe she's not even the elderly. I think they're the niece. She belongs to the niece of the couple that he's working with. And he's here, walking the dog. So I would, if I could suggest to anybody to take her out regularly, this is what I would suggest. Just go out in the front and just go, make sure that she doesn't pull, going back and forth, from one house to the other, and just let her get used to the environment. Getting used to the environment to me is very important, especially with a dog that's overstimulated from the outside environment. They don't get out a lot. So here, because there's a knot in his leash, it kind of, she got a little bit restricted. So that's why I like, even if I'm out on a regular sidewalk, I like to have a little bit more leash. So that way I can let her kind of go, and then I can bring her back in. But that's just me, not the end of the world.
We made it to the park. I ran with her.
Okay, so it gets a little bit of that energy out of her.
Terrible situation.
Prevents her from pulling too terribly much, when you're
Expected to work way too fast.
So prevents her from really pulling. I mean, depends on the leash. She could be learning to pull, when she's running, but it kind of helps her. She's not dragging and choking herself. If you run, she gets a little bit of that energy out. And here he has kind of he has a certain goal in mind, that he's trying to fix a number of behaviors, or he has that in his mind. That's his plan, to work on a number of behaviors in one short sitting. So for me, I just work on one thing, just especially when I get to a new environment, and who knows how often this dog comes out to this environment or really gets out at all. I would just come here and just walk the environment, and they can just walk around. I'm not working on anything other than, don't pull on the leash. They can have all 30 foot, if this is a 30-foot line, 40, 50, whatever length. And I'm just working on that, let them sniff and let them get the newness out of this. And I would do this where I would come here every day for, 2 weeks, or I would suggest somebody, just like going in front of the house and walking, little bits. And you do it over and over until this is really, the newness is out. And could there be a couple dogs there sometimes? Sure. You kind of want to make sure that you have the same environment every time, so that way the dog, it becomes comfortable, and then you can start working on different behaviors. Now, would she need to be here for 2 weeks, before she gets the newness out? I don't know. Would she ever get better? I don't know. It depends with every dog. Ow. Popping my wrist. I'm old. Crack all over the time. But I would like to start with that. I don't expect them to do anything other than just sniff and get the newness out. I don't ask anything of them.
The owner has Parkinson's.
Okay, so that could be a little bit of an issue.
It's for her. This is her special needs niece's dog.
Okay.
She doesn't even want the dog, it didn't sound like, so.
So I wonder if they ever, I just hear like special needs and think like, oh, okay, maybe they're training the dog to do something. Maybe it's just the dog is just there to be a dog. I automatically always assume, which I shouldn't, that, oh, maybe they're hoping to train the dog to be some kind of a service animal, which could be, if that is in mind. I'm not saying anybody is saying that, but this could be a very difficult breed to teach that. Not that you couldn't, but especially, if she's already older and all that. I'm not saying that they are. That's just something to keep in mind.
See what we can do with a dog that just doesn't get worked with.
Okay, so he untangled his line. I like that. He's playing with the ball. I love that she has her tail, too. A lot of these dogs, she looks like a Brittany to me, but, have their tails docked. So he's just out here playing with her. That's great. I would be walking around letting her sniff, because that's, seems like something that she would, she would enjoy doing. I'll try to leave the mouse off so you don't have to see that little line there. So he's just out here just playing with her. That's great. I would just walk all the way around, make a little circle, make a circle around this whole area here, and just letting her sniff. There's still a little bit of a knot in his line. That's kind of me. I guess I'm kind of anal about that, but I like to really make sure that I have a smooth line that I can reel in and let slide out of my hands. It looked like he was running there because he's trying to keep her from pulling on the leash. So she just likes to run. Kind of letting go of the leash there. Again, that knot really just kind of bugs. I mean, it can get caught up on things. So whenever I am working with a dog, though, I will pause it here for a sec. Whenever I am working with them on a long line, I stay with them. I pretty much follow them so they can walk, and if they run a little bit faster, they can slide this leash out of my hand. But I'm still saying, I'm still following them. And then as they stop and sniff, then I start to take in that leash. I start to reel it in so that way, there's less for me to grab if I need to, or less to trip, or they take off and then they clothesline themselves. So that's how I work with the long line. You can see in any video I do with Adonis, I'll put a video of how I use a long line and the great thing about them. And I would just walk around this whole area for her walk and just, teach her to get used to the area and being a dog and getting the smells out. And then you can come back after a while again. This would just be my training plan. Not that anybody asked for it, but, getting her used to the newness and coming out every day, and then we can start working on little behaviors. So he's trying to get her attention. He's a little bit further away, so it's kind of hard to create a draw for her. Like she went to go pee. Goes and fixes his leash. He's saying very difficult.
Everything else besides me.
So she's focused on everything else but him.
Start in the house. Have to. There's too much going on. She's not like barking or anything, but this is over threshold.
Agreed. So I'm going to pause in there for a sec. So that's why I don't expect, I expect this. I expect them to not be able to focus on anything, especially, a hunting breed, a very highly stimulated breed, a dog that doesn't get out much, even if it's a bulldog. And I don't expect anything of them, and I don't ask anything of them. We just go out for a sniff, a little sniffari, we walk around, let them kind of get tired out. Then I might ask for a very simple behavior. He says that's why you start at home. Absolutely, I agree. You could still be teaching your dog behaviors at home, but if I get into a new environment, I still give them, even my Shiba, who knows all these behaviors, obedience. And he's shown that he understands them in a number of different environments because I've proved him through that. I still give him, at least 5 to 10 minutes to just sniff in a new environment, even if it's the park we go to every day, because he's proven to me time and time again that, it's like we go to a playground, with the kid, and then we tell them, wait a minute, you gotta sit here and do a couple, let's do a couple multiplication tables before you go play. It's just, they're gonna be frustrated. So that's why I don't expect anything. My expectations are to the ground, ground level, and we're just gonna walk and sniff. And then I can start building up any other natural behavior she gives me. Anytime she comes up to me, bam, she can get a little treat or whatever she finds really, really highly motivating.
She can't focus on me. She likes chasing the ball, but not like grabbing it. Okay.
So she's still over there sniffing something.
Focus on the food.
Okay, he's gonna get focused on, try to get her focused with, his other reinforcer. So he loads his mouth instead of his hand. He doesn't have a treat pouch.
Pixie.
So that right there is one thing that he always teaches that you want to have the same, I don't know if that's what he says or not. I don't know. He always has the same monotone voice, same tone of voice, I'll say, for every cue that he does, or even calling their name. To me, if I'm giving, an obedience cue, such as sit or down, I'll say it like that. I probably don't. My voice always fluctuates. But if I'm calling their name, I want it to be different than the same monotonous sound that I'm constantly telling them. So I have a higher pitched voice. I make it more happy sounding. A lot of people out there, there's a whole different, people say you should be commanding or you should be, whatever. Look, if I'm calling her, I'm going to say, Pixie, something high, something happy. And as soon as she looks at me, I'm going to bend my upper half down and start backing away. But being this far away, I would expect, I wouldn't necessarily expect her to follow me, so I might need to get closer. So say, you're where this tree is over here, and she's where this bush is. If I call her from over here, there's not enough of a draw, so I will move a little bit closer and start backing away. Move a little bit closer and back away and create that draw that way. Well, still just calling her name once and then, following up with like kissy noises or something else. But again, my body is the part that kind of repeats doing that little yo-yo, that two-step dance. If I were an animal, I wouldn't respond necessarily to just Pixie. That could be like a look cue, but still, that's just me. Okay, so anybody else can do it however they want to. I'm not saying that he's wrong for doing it this way. I just think as a dog that, especially if you're competing with other things in the environment, you want to stand out. You don't want to just be a stick in the mud, stand out, say your name, Pixie, or something higher, I get it that guys a lot of times, have trouble getting the higher notes, whether it's because of something personal for them, or it's just physically hard for them to do that high squeaky voice. So, but in that case, you can just be more exciting. And he's stationary, so he's waiting for her to give him, some kind of look cue. So I'm assuming that she looked at him when he waved and smiled, and that would be when I would start immediately backing away. As soon as I get the dog's attention. You know, a lot of times that's why I don't say their name, because if I don't expect them, which I don't expect them to look at me right away or come to me, I don't want to ruin that as a connection. Then I say your name and you look at me and then you follow through, you know, versus if I say your name, you look at me and then you run the opposite direction. So I would say, you know, like make a kissy noise, or like, you know, or like, you know, whatever, whistle, get down low, start pawing at the ground, you know, whatever. I mean, I use these little tricks with my sister's cat when she would walk him on a leash. When he would get scared, I would take a stick and just start, you know, dragging it along the ground, or like digging in the rocks or something, and kind of get his attention, that he would want to kind of come out and explore a little bit more, you know, act more, you know, animalistic in a way. Awesome. So she comes up to him. I would have rewarded immediately there. I would have had my hand down and maybe been walking away. You know, there's nothing wrong, you know, with how he does it, you know, or how a lot of people do it. They want to be stationary. For me, having worked with a lot of dogs like this, I like to have immediate gratification, you know, very quickly for the simplest things. Just coming to me, yes, you get your reward, bam, I'm going to move away, or you can stay there and I can give you another reward. I'm not going to sit and wait for a look cue, or sit or wait for a sit, you know, or anything like that, just because I expect them to have the attention span of a fly. Okay, you know, like oh, I come to you, oh, look, there's a fly, oh, look, there's a butterfly, oh, look, let me go play with the grass, you know, and the weeds and this and that, and just, you know, boom, 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 you know, their mind is all over the place. So I just like to work with lots of very short, quick, immediate rewards. That's just how I work, but every dog is different. But particularly with very high energy dogs that have a very short attention span, either they've learned that over time, or that's just kind of how their brain works. So she walks away. So I would actually let her walk away, but that's good. So he didn't even say anything there, I don't think. She just kind of walked over on her own. I'm going to turn this up a little bit to see if he is saying things. Hear him a little bit over my yammering. And he's just rewarding her for coming back up to him. So he stopped there. He's backing away, creating a draw. Very good. She happens to notice. She comes towards him. Excellent. And he kind of kept it up. I would have kept on going until she like meets up to me, but then again, maybe that's too much for her. I always, you know, I imagine he might have a water bowl over here. I hope he does.
Just going to the bathroom again. Hi.
So I would hope that he has, you know, a water bowl. So a lot of times if you're working with a dog, we're going to see her. She seems like she's much more into him now. She's much more locked on. And it could be that she just needs to go to the bathroom.
Ideally,
you know.
if we can get that eye contact without asking anything, that's what we want.
Excellent. So he's going to be rewarding for that. For me, I would just be rewarding her for just staying close to me. She can sniff. I don't care what she does. I'm not going to ask anything of her. I would just follow her and then occasionally back up and see if she's going to follow me. I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about her staying super close to me in the very beginning. Again, I might do this for a couple of days in a row. If she were my dog, or if I were being paid to train, you know, with her, or if I were just working with her more than just walking her. Got early reward. She's allowed to go away. She's allowed to walk away. So he said her name. She came back because of her learned reinforcement.
My mouth before I clicked. Pixie.
So again, he wants to be consistent, and that's fine. He comes over, waits for her to sit. Terrific. It worked out. For me, again, I would have just, you know, Pixie, or again, just a little noise. You know, I wouldn't. If I don't feel confident the dog is 100% going to come when I call their name, then I would just make a little noise and back away. He's standing there trying to be very stationary, trying to wait for her to wait to mark the behavior. I would move a little bit.
Patience is a virtue.
Patience is a virtue. And for me, you know, she's already looking around for stuff to do, you know, and working with other, you know, bird dogs and dogs like this. You know, that's just their mind. That's just how their mind works. So you can be patient by just walking around. When she comes up to you, bam, give her a little reward. Let her sniff. Good. So he waited for her to look back at him. I would have expected her to move away because that can be kind of boring for her. You know, so for some dogs, they need to have a quicker pace of training, I guess is what I've been trying to get at, is that, you know, she seems like a dog that we need a quicker pace of training versus a slower pace of training, or waiting for them, you know, waiting to shape a behavior.
So there's a chance that I should be just reinforcing this calmness to be outside.
Agreed, absolutely.
There's so many different routes that you can go.
And that's why I think it would be good and helpful to just walk around.
This under control, and an appropriate outlet, then that's wonderful. So let's try.
Okay, so she can certainly have moments of running around and sprinting. She doesn't seem like she's too keen on,
Just like that.
you know, fetch, but she did go away. She came back to him. He can reward. That's great. You know, for me, if I'm going to be working on a behavior, I would just consistently work on that behavior of just walking around the perimeter of this, letting her smell things, and anytime she happens to come back or make eye contact, that's when I would mark and reward. And that would be all that I work on, and letting her sniff wherever she wants as long as she wants. I personally wouldn't be calling her name, but I would make, you know, a conditioned noise. So that was not as rewarding for her, reinforcing for her.
I'm going to take that too.
So he still reward her for self-control and not going for it, but to me that might be confusing to the dog. I mean, you're rewarding for a number of different behaviors.
I know what the fuck I'm trying to do. But my mind in that moment, it was like, okay, she saw something that was going away from her. She could be running after it, so mark that calmness. Try to give a release cue. I don't know.
Sure, and you know, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, I'm like this too, where I try to, you know, especially if I'm recording myself or if I see a behavior in a moment, you know, I want to train it, but let's just keep in mind, what is the dog learning versus what do we think we're teaching them? So I just try to make it very simple, especially for a dog that is very energetic. Let's just walk around and sniff and reward for that piece. You know, we can also be reinforcing that she's walking, not pulling on the leash. She gets to smell, she's being calm, and then over time we can add the other things, such as, you know, impulse control or really good eye contact or obedience. I mean, I have a Shiba, so I raised a Shiba, so he's kind of raised me in dogs, you know, that I don't require a lot of eye contact from him, and therefore other dogs, because that's just what I'm used to. But, you know, if I know that his ear is turning back to me, and if I make a noise, his ear turns back to me, that's as good as his eye contact, because I know he's still listening to me. With my next dog, will I be really into eye contact? Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? So for you, you'll have that kind of relationship with your own dog, that kind of communication that you really want that eye contact and you really, really reward it. Or you don't really care so much, but you know that they're listening to you based on some part of their subtle body language. So she's been calm there. I would just walk in whatever direction she wants to go in. She's still hanging out with him. She's still being chill. She's still being calm.
You guys hear that?
Listening to birds. You know, for me, I wouldn't necessarily be worried about rewarding because she doesn't seem like she's super into the food. I mean, she'll take it, yeah, but it doesn't seem like that's necessarily going to really drive this behavior. I think you could just walk around, let the smelling and existing in this environment be the reward for her behavior. And I'm a big person on rewarding and treats, so I'm not saying don't use treats at all by any means. But just see what the dog is really into. You know, in the beginning, you could tell she's really focused on him. And then she's like, you know, I'm kind of cool. I'm going to do what bird dogs do, which is just look around. Look for things, and, you know, look for movement. Maybe stalk some things.
Bird noises?
I mean, this is awesome. I would be happy to just sit out here with her. Like, this is really good mental stimulation for her.
Oh, you want me in the shop? Oh, you're okay. Hey. Pixie. She's looking.
Okay, so that's why one reason why I might not use her name right away. You know, personally, I don't use her name because of, again, my Shiba. I raised my Shiba, but he raised me of how to understand dogs. That with him, you know, if I say his name, you know, and I'm inconsistent or I haven't, you know, really taught him to look and come to his name versus, you know, the COME word or, you know, now using a weird sound, kind of like, I always call it like my Bigfoot call, like, whoa, you know, kind of noise. You know, he taught me that I was very inconsistent. So now I just make a kissy noise, whatever, clicky noise, kind of scoot my feet, just something to get their attention, and then I can start backing away. And if that doesn't work, okay, we'll practice that inside, and right now we're just going to walk around and sniff. And she's not being stubborn by any means.
Making noise with my feet?
Just like that. That would be a, you know, perfect example. I didn't know he was going to do that, of what I might do. But I might keep doing it. I might walk back and forth. It's good that he is backing away because he's facing her, backing away. Because then he says, hey, come to me, kind of creating a draw. Again, I would probably move closer to her if I really wanted to get her locked on to just my body language. He bent down. That's another good option you can do.
Try to mix up those cues, try to figure out what's working, what's not working.
Exactly.
Play with it.
Exactly.
Not about perfection. It's about being as perfect as we can be, and we're not. We suck.
And you don't even need to worry about being perfect. That's the whole problem. And I think the problem that he had was that he always felt like he had to be perfect. And then I even ended up started thinking that, because a lot of people not just him, a lot of people in the dog training world, they get you for every little thing. As long as you're not hurting the dog, I don't care how perfect or imperfect you are. Like, as long as you and the dog are having a good time, that's what it's all about. So he's going to try and get her attention over here. So here is where I would say, if she hasn't been out here sniffing, we don't know how long she's been out here. I'm going to let her walk around here and sniff for, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Then I will start getting closer and backing away, getting closer and backing away. And I'll do this silently, where I can make a noise. Or if she's, right here, I might, if she's sniffing going this way, I'm going to run in front of her shoulder to get in front of her, a horse, it would be a drive line. Dogs don't have a drive line, but whereas if it was a horse, he would stop their movement going forward. But for her, I would get in front of her shoulder just to get in the corner of her eyesight. As soon as she looks at me, I'd bend down and back away. And she may or may not chase me. But that's why I would say, okay, we're just going to walk around a little bit more, let you get more of the smells up, and then we'll try again. I mean, my Shiba has taught me this, that like Adonis would do this even today, like he's like, hey, I'm busy sniffing. I don't want to follow you just yet. And so that's why I expect this, because I'm used to it, because I don't have a German Shepherd or Labrador or even a Rottie or a Pit Bull, dogs that are just very, very in tune with their owners.
Let's go, baby.
So I've noticed there's kind of a lot of tight lead there, which is why I like it to be nice and smooth. The leash, there's no knots. And if she's pulling in one direction, I'm not going to be worried about running the opposite direction for her to chase me. I'm just going to follow her and let her, take the lead. And then when she's standing there on 40 feet of loose leash, she's just standing there, then I might run away. But that's just me. Again, none of what he's doing is hurting the dog, so I don't really have a problem with it. If this were Joel, and if Joel Beckman did this, I would have no problem with him. I would have no problem, because he's not trying to hurt the dog. Right. One thing I do not like is that he drops the leash. Okay, he goes and picks it up. Okay. So he's still focused on that, agreed, it is dangerous with her on a collie, so that's why I wouldn't be running her. And that's why, again, I like to have, and he doesn't need to say it's a stupid idea. It's not a stupid idea. It's just an idea that just didn't work with her, with this type of dog. And so when you get down on yourself and you're hard on yourself, then that's where, you lose the opportunity to learn how to communicate with this dog. So he's going through all the tools that he knows in his toolbox, and they just aren't working. It seems like he hasn't worked with a dog like this before. I'm very used to this, so I'm not worried about it taking time to get the dog used to the environment and then working with me. We can build that relationship. I don't expect any dog to follow me right away, because we don't have that relationship. Even my own Shiba, like, we can go out here and sniff for 5 minutes, and then he's like, all right, I'm good, let's go. We can work. I can ask behaviors of you, because we've gotten the newness out of this area. So I'd still be walking with her. If she wants to run, we can jog for a little bit, get some of that energy out, being careful with the leash. Still seems like a good time to me, for the dog. Pixie doesn't seem worried at all. Just exist. I've learned with dogs and with horses too, just exist with them. So for him, and I've been there before too, where when you set out to get certain results and you don't get those, you don't successfully get those results, it can be really hard. For someone, you can get down on yourself, you can even get depressed about it. You can, think that you're, just speaking from my point of view, that, I might be a failure, or I'm just not good enough, or, but really the dog doesn't care. Pixie doesn't care. She's having a great time. Has she learned some things? Sure. I wouldn't necessarily say that she's learned anything bad. She's hanging out with him. She likes to hang out with him. Just learn to exist with your animal, no matter what they are, and just build that relationship together. And even if it's like you're a dog walker where you only see them a couple times a month, or once or twice, just learn from that dog. Let that dog teach you. And it seems like that's what he's doing. So now she's over here.
Is this. Pixie. That's her name. There's just...
Yep. So he's moved on, and now she's looking at birds and sniffing, and again, says her name. And I mean, I could have told you she wasn't going to come back to you, or I wouldn't know if she would come back to me. So I wouldn't be saying her name, but I might be moving a little bit further ahead, and then saying, kind of walking backwards in front of her and saying Pixie, and then she's already heading in that direction. She can follow me, or I can make another kissy noise. I don't know. Just some things that I might do.
Zero engagement, and so if you work properly with owners that actually give a shit, then obviously you can work with this dog, right? Obviously. But with a dog like this, is it mandatory that this dog gets punished?
And sorry, it's like really grainy. That's just this is how the video was downloaded, so.
And use painful methods because the owners are unfair?
So she's pointing.
I'm just confused.
She's caught on to something.
We're about to leave. I don't have the leash.
So that's something that I would be a little bit worried about, especially, if it's not my dog and you don't have a way to really get her to come back. I wouldn't just let her drag off with the leash, but, he does get her attention moving away. So, he looked out. Terrific. I don't think this is safe, especially not with, a dog that's not your own. And she happens to come back. Terrific. That could have gone really wrong, though, because you're not going to keep up with this dog, so.
What do you think, baby? You like it? That can be all yours now.
So he gives them this little harness, and he does go back and work with her a second time. But that was just it for this video. Just some things that I point out that I'm kind of used to. I expect all dogs to think like this, and when they don't, then it's really easy for me. Because 98% of the time when I do talking or moving back, the dogs will follow. But then there's those few, like this little girl Pixie, or like Adonis, or like some other clients that I've had, that just they act like Adonis. They have that more independent mindset. So you kind of have to work a little bit harder. You have to work a little differently. Remain flexible to it. So I'm glad he was able to learn to it. This is a great example of just learning from something. You don't have to think that you're the worst person in the world. You're not. He's not hurting the dog. You don't have to hurt the dog. Positive reinforcement does work. You just have to, take your time. Take it one day at a time. Don't worry about immediate results. Just go with the flow and work at your dog's pace. So that's going to do it for this video. Little cutie pie here, little Miss Pixie here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of this video. Go say hi to your little critters. Give them some loving for me. Say howdy do. Until next time, stay positive.